recording, so you'll get to see and hear this eventually. I want to thank you for tuning in at late notice. Special notice to my VIP supporter, Annie Massey, on Patreon, patreon.com/WhiteLineFever. And here is a man who is enormously famous in Australia. It's Rodolphe Pires. Hello, Rodolphe. How are you? Hello.
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
How are you? How are you?
Hello.
Okay, so
yes, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm quite far away.
You've been very prominent in the NRL this week. You must have been. Have you been getting a lot of feedback? Your call of the Raiders last weekend has been shared and liked and talked about. What sort of feedback have you got, Rudolph?
Well, yeah, I've been told Monday morning, French time, that NRL 360 just took a piece of the commentary of last week's game, and well, I was I was surprised, but we've been doing this with Louis Bonnery for more than 20 years. What were they expecting to do it? Why did they wait for so long? No, more seriously, it's nice because it's, you know, better than anybody, the situation of the French Rugby League, and you know that the game is not as popular as it should be, and you know how much it's important to expand our game, and we're trying to do our part here, and I'm trying to do mine for a long time, and it was nice, and it's well, it's touching, you know, that thinking that someone far away from you can look at what you're doing on a daily basis, far away from Australia. And we don't live in the rugby league paradise, we know that. So we're trying to make our own rugby league paradise in France, which is not, but it's nice. I'd like to thank them once again.
Tell us the story there, Rudolph, about your own background and how you came to be involved in rugby league, and you know, the whole thing. Like, I mean, people just, all they do is they see a clip and they hear people screaming in French, and that's all they know. So what's the backstory to all this? How did you become involved in the game? Louis Bonnery has been involved in rugby league for longer than anybody I can recall, who I still see regularly. You call the games in a room. Which matches do you call? Who watches? Where, you know, does you live in Paris? Rugby league's in the south. Just paint a picture for the viewers and listeners.
See, look, Steve, this is where I work. You know, it's far away from the Australian shores. You see, this is where I work. This is how we get to our rugby league paradise, and it's, you know, it's not. We have this. You see, Louis is staying here, and I'm standing here, and for the last 20 years, I would say, we've been working on those games. We call the games off to you, and we've been doing that for more than 20 years, almost 25 years, Louis and I. I was born in the south of France, in a city called Albi. It's a rugby league city because it's a club that was founded in 1934, exactly when the exact year rugby league was brought in France. And I grew up watching games like all the kids of my age, and I started playing. I was not top rugby league player, I have to confess, but I played my part. And then I, for work, of course, I had to move to Paris quite soon in my life. So and I started working here. But just like you said, Paris is not a rugby league city. We used to have one. You remember, Paris Saint-Germain. But unfortunately, the game is not that big in France, and it's not that big in Paris, obviously. So it's well, it is what it is. We've been working, Louis and I, together. We are the longest pair serving in terms of rugby league commentary in rugby in France. Rugby league commentary elsewhere, I don't know, but we've been working together for quite a long time. And Louis and I started working on the Challenge Cup, the English Challenge Cup. And then the TV station we were working with bought the right of the Super League again after Canal Plus, when Canal Plus left it. And that's how Louis and I started to work on rugby league on a daily basis, I would say. And then it started on another century now, and that's how we had the chance and the opportunity to travel. Not so much in terms of Australian games, but we had the chance to cover the Super League in Europe, of course, and the World Cups in England, 2000, for instance, and the other in Australia in the last one in 2017, and hopefully next year we'll do the Rugby League World Cup. Not so sure because times are changing in France in terms of TV rights, so we hope we'll be able to cover it again.
And what about Catalans? You have had periods where you were the commentator at Catalans games, but not. Are you not doing those games this year? No.
No, exactly. We started working on the domestic championship in France. So we were covering the 13 Catalan at that time and all the French domestic teams. And then when Super League started, of course, Louis and I were there for the very first game of the Catalans play against Wigan back in 2006. And well, it's been a wonderful journey with the Catalan Dragons, and that led us to Wembley and this final. And it was really painful when we lost the rights of the competition. Now, to give you an example of what rugby league is all about in France, no one bought the rights for Super League, which is a shame. And we have to watch the games on Sky Sports now because the game is not covered like it used to be, Super League. And hopefully Bein Sports will get the rights again soon. I hope so, but I'm not that confident. But fortunately, we still have the rights of the NRL, which is it's the flagship of rugby league on Bein Sports, and also in France, because the last 20 years I've seen a lot of changes, especially with the young blokes that you meet and that tell you, well, I've been listening to you for about 20 years and I grew up listening to rugby league games. I didn't know that game, and thanks to television I know this game, and it's a fantastic game. It's fast. It's everything you know about the game. Some people know it through the television. Without the television, they would never heard about this game, and especially what was going on far away in Australia.
Is the NRL? We know that the Roosters trained in I think in Paris before the World Club Challenge last year. Is there potential there? I mean, if the NRL put on a match in the south of France, would it be commercially viable? Is there, if people are watching the games on television, is there a way the NRL could leverage that?
Well, commercially viable, as much as a rugby league can be, I would say, because who would have played the game? The Catalan Dragons? Yeah, they could have been some sort of a, no offense, but sparring partner for the Roosters before the World Club Challenge. Yes, would have been a good idea. The game might have been televised. Would it be viable? I don't know. But for the main interest of the game, it would have been a bonus, of course. And just something that I remember about this day, I was there and I went to see the training session because I went to see Trent after the training session with a couple of friends he knew from a long time ago from Toulouse. And it was funny to see that on that particular day, there were no rugby union coaches. Just to remember to the viewers that rugby union is really big in France, even if the times are difficult for everybody. But there were no rugby union coaches attending these training sessions. And those training sessions were the best thing you could find in the business in terms of athleticism, in terms of tactics, in terms of players, staff, the way things are handled in the NRL. So there were no interest or whatsoever from the coaches, which is a shame. And it's based on, you know, that because you've been traveling so much, everything is based on curiosity. You have to see, you have uh, to see exactly what the others are doing to try to improve yourself. And we haven't seen this curiosity from the main rugby code in France when the Roosters came. So you had a lot of fans who came. They were so happy to see the fans, to see the players that they could see on TV. And I remember something funny. Victor Radley came after the training session, just like the other players, and he shook hands with the at that time we could, and he shook hands with fans and said, "Hello, I'm Victor Radley," and he was surprised because he could see this little old man or this little old lady shaking his hand and saying, "Yeah, I know you because I see you on TV week in, week out. You're a hell of a player, and we know who you are." And I found that fantastic because for me, that's what it should be. And you are just like I am, a someone who wants this game to expand, and we need this expansion. And we are lucky to work. I feel lucky and blessed to work on the best rugby league and rugby, uh, whatever the code is, competition with the NRL. And I'm a big fan. It's my job, but I'm still a big fan. And we have this opportunity to show it to people and tell them, okay, you're in France, you live in the south of France, you know a little bit of rugby league, you know what it is, but you live in Brittany, you live in the east of France, close to the German border or the Switzerland border, you live in the north, close to the Belgian border. Okay, this is a game that you should know, and television is good for that. And what we're doing here, we're acting as ambassadors of the game, and we have to do it. We have to show the people that there are two codes, because people don't really know it in France, and you know that. And people don't know that we have two rugby codes, and rugby league is a hell of a sport. It's a fantastic game, and we have to show people. With the NRL, it's so easy, and it is as well with the Super League, of course. But in a rugby league world where we need expansion, we need more uh, more teams playing against each other in the Pacific, here in Europe, we have to use these TV tool to share it to the people, and that's what we're doing in France, because people in France see that on TV, and I've seen something funny in bars here, or small restaurants. At that time in France, we had bars as well and restaurants, and people stop eating or talking and watch the TV, a TV in the corner, and say, "Hey, what's that? Those guys running all the time and bumping to each other, scoring tries, and jerseys are nice, and the stadiums are good. You see the paint on the pitch; it's perfect." And it might be a detail for the viewers in Australia who would listen to what I'm saying, but you catch once rugby league catches your eye, it's finished, and especially the NRL.
You have to go soon, so I'll ask you two questions in one. This Sunday in Toulouse, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but there's a nines tournament on. Despite everything, there's a nines tournament on with, I think, about 8 teams more. Can you say a little bit about that? And women's rugby league seems to be quite big in France, and a lot of enthusiasm for women's rugby league. And secondly, the next 2 weeks, obviously very exciting for you and Louis Bonnery, calling the last 2 weekends of the NRL season, culminating in the grand final, of course. So give us your tip, what you think is going to happen over the next couple of weekends. So, yeah, just those two things, Rodolphe, and I'll let you go.
For the game, coming back to the women, yes, you're right, and the women's game is expanding. And we speak a lot about women's rugby league. My good friend Laurent Garnier up in Queensland. He works with this. He's coaching a women's side, and we speak a lot about this. And funny thing is, we are showing as well the state of origin of the women,
Mm.
and I've been told that it's an inspiration.
Mm.
How could it be? How could it be?
Not.
How could it be anything else than than an inspiration for these girls? Because these women, they play rugby league here. As I said, rugby league is not that big, and they play a game that few other girls play, and the women playing can see the best of the best when they watch the state of origin. And on Bein Sports this week, you were talking about the next 2 weeks, very important for Louis and I for the rest of the season. But we also focused on November with the state of origin, because once again we'll cover the state of origin this year, women and men. And coming back to the next 2 weeks, yes, well, it's been a strange season for everybody, and for us as well, because we thought that it would never come back. And at a time here in France, people have to know in Australia that the only live rugby and sports event was in Australia, was the NRL, because at that time everything was shut. Soccer was shut in France, rugby union as well, of course, basketball, volleyball, whatever. So the only live sports that you could get on Bein Sports or elsewhere was the rugby league and was the NRL. And so we were happy, proud, enthusiastic, just as always, Louis and I, when the competition started back. And we we had good fun for this season, because it's been, well, every time you think that the rugby league in Australia has shown you everything, when you say, well, I've seen it all, I know, but it's not. It's not. You always have something new and good, big and new for the game. Like Six again. Last season, after the final, we said, oh my God, the Canberra Raiders, they lost, and this wrong call. And we starting talking about Six again, and look what happens. A few months later, you have this new rule, Six again, accelerates the pace, and some think it's good, some don't think it's a very good rule. I personally think that it's a good rule. Everything that can speed up the game is good for me, because we know that we playing a game not just for rugby league itself, but we play with all the competitors, all the other codes, all the other sports, AFL or rugby union here in France. So everything you can bring to the game to make it more spectacular, we take it. And once again, the NRL set a new standard, and it's bigger, faster, and more exciting than ever. So for the next 2 weeks, I would like to have a couple of surprises. I would like to see a big surprise, something that shakes. But uh, for this week, I'm not sure. I think we'll see the Storm again, and I think that we'll see the Panthers as well in the final. But like I said, I'd like to have a surprise, things that will make a big final, and bring more, once again, frenzy into it, because that's what we live for. You see this? Look, Steve, this cabin here. There's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of energy in this small, very, very small place.
Yes.
when the games come,
Yes.
and sometimes people put their head just here, you see right there, and they say, what's going on? Oh, it's those two guys. It's Louis and Rodolphe, and they commentating a game of rugby league in Australia. And last time we had a final where we became crazy was 2015, and people were gathering around us in this cabin to see what, because those guys are going to die in this cabin, because we're excited with the Cowboys winning the title in this crazy scenario. And I like movies, But when I go to the movies or watch a movie at home, never been uh, as much surprised or shook up with a scenario from a final of the NRL. The guys, I don't know who writes it, but the guy who writes the scenario for the NRL game is a genius. So hopefully, who plays, I'm sure we're going to have a great final. Maybe not a surprise, but I guess we're going to have it. And one last thing I'd like to say to all the journalists in Australia working on the NRL, on television or whatever, you're lucky guys. Don't forget that. Don't complain, because you have the chance to work on a fantastic sport and a great competition. And you're living in the paradise of rugby league journalists. Don't forget that.
Now, your enthusiasm has perhaps cost you. You've got a meeting across town. You've got to put on your mask and get on the metro. I'll let you go. Congratulations on all the work you do for the game. And let's make sure. Wouldn't it be great in 10 years if I could interview 10 people who are calling NRL games in a language other than English? That would be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it's difficult. We're a few actually. Spain, maybe Turkey. Have you seen that?
Yes, yeah, Turkey. The Czechs sometimes. Is there some Czech commentary? I don't know. Anyway, you got to go.
Yeah, but I recently heard. Yeah. I gotta go. And be sure that we're doing our party in France for the NRL, for the rugby league. But you know already that.
Yes, and you're getting the recognition you've deserved. So, bye, Rudolph. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Stay safe.